Your task for today is to read and annotate Chapter 2. While you're reading and annotating Chapter 2, I'm going to ask that you really focus on the social, psychological setting of the ranch. This can be done by evaluating character interactions as well as even other types of setting. You'll find that when evaluating social and psychological setting, that the physical and temporal setting will have a direct impact on the unwritten social rules and the norms of the novel that you're reading. So let me go ahead and zoom in here. I'm going to read out and annotate just a part of the first page before letting you get started. And I'm going to go in with my highlight tool and highlight and talk you through with what I'm noticing as a reader on this first page. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 2. The bunkhouse, I'm going to go highlight that, the first sentence, was a long rectangular building. Inside, the walls were whitewashed and the floor unpainted. In 3 walls, there were small square windows, and in the 4th, a solid door with a wooden latch. Against the walls were 8 bunks, 5 of them made up with blankets and the other 3 showing their burlap ticking. Over each bunk, there was nailed an apple box with the opening forward so that it made 2 shelves for the personal belongings of the occupant of the bunk. And these shelves were loaded with little articles, soap and talcum powder, razors, and those Western magazines ranchmen love to read and scoff at and secretly believe. And there were medicines on the shelves and little vials, combs, and from nails on the box sides, a few neckties. Near one wall, there was a black cast iron stove, its stovepipe going straight up through the ceiling. In the middle of the room stood a big square table littered with playing cards, and around it were grouped boxes for the players to sit on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause there and write on the side what I'm noting so far about what would appear to be the physical setting that we have just entered. So we already know that we are in a bunkhouse for ranchers. A few features that I'm noticing is that the bunkhouse appears to be small with a small window. Okay, so not a lot of light. Not very luxurious. Okay, and I can tell this from the burlap ticking as well as the apple boxes that serve as shelves. And then I want to draw your attention to one line which is so profound in this paragraph, which is those Western magazines ranchmen love to read and scoff at and secretly believe. So we kind of have this idea, I'm going to put it in quotes, of Western toughness, right? So you have essentially these cowboys who act tough, but really like to dream and are very hopeful. This can definitely fall into examining the social setting, right? That there's this concept of we need to be tough. We need to be this Western, really Western man, okay? So you're going to start seeing some topics revolving around masculinity as you continue to read. Okay, so let me go ahead and keep on reading. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, the sun threw a bright dust-laden bar through one of the side windows, and in and out of the beam flies shot like rushing stars. Love the language that Steinbeck is using here. The wooden latch raised. The door opened, and a tall, stoop-shouldered old man came in. He was dressed in blue jeans, and he carried a big push broom in his left hand. Behind him came George, and behind George, Lenny. "The boss was expecting you last night," the old man said. "He was sore as hell when you wasn't here to get out in the morning." He pointed with his right arm, and out of the sleeve came a round, stick-like wrist, but no hand. "You can have them 2 beds there," he said, indicating 2 bunks near the stove. So we just met a new character. Just going to make a quick note here on the side. We'll probably find out his name later. New character, old man who shows George and Lenny around. No hand. Back with my highlight tool. George stepped over and threw his blankets down on the burlap sack of straw that was his mattress. Okay, so again, seeing not very luxurious. He looked into his box shelf and then picked a small yellow can from it. Say, what the hell's this? I don't know, said the old man. Says, positively kills lice, roaches, and other scourges. What the hell kind of bed you giving us anyways? We don't want no pants rabbits. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight pants rabbits. The old swamper shifted his broom and held it between his elbow and his side while he held out his hand for the can. He studied the label carefully. Tell you what, he said finally. Last guy that had this bed was a blacksmith. Hell of a nice fella, and as clean a guy as you want to meet. Used to wash his hands even after he ate. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Then how come he got graybacks? George was working up a slow anger. Lenny put his bindle on the neighboring bunk and sat down. He watched George with an open mouth. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. As you read, you want to keep in mind the question, how are the characters speaking? We see that they use a lot of slang. It's very colloquial, informal, and kind of blunt too. You know, that you're not really getting this warm welcome. Hi, so happy to have you here. Welcome, welcome. It's kind of very blunt. And then going back, just a quick note about physical setting, we see that lice and bed bugs are a common feature of ranch life. Common feature, common concern, of ranch life. And believe it or not, guys, this actually does connect to the social and psychological setting because this is something now that these men are thinking about. Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and you are going to continue to read this chapter, really focusing on not just social and psychological setting, but characters, how they're interacting, what are some things you're noticing, as well as questions or passages that stick out to you that you want to bring up in your discussion next week.